Okay, everybody, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So this week, I completed a 5-part mini course on conflict resolution. It was sponsored by the Pardes Institute of Jewish Studies in Jerusalem. It's so great. I mean, part of being virtual, we can just, find all kinds of amazing things that are now accessible. So the workshop was called Machloket Matters. Machloket is the Hebrew word for argument or disagreement. So each of these 5 classes featured an in-depth look at one biblical dispute. And just as it happens, the very first class, the dispute that we looked at, is from this week's Torah portion, this week's parasha, Korach. Now, Korach was a Levite who publicly disagreed with Moses and Aaron. But there were 2 other rebels named Datan and Aviram, and they were from the tribe of Reuven. And we learned that Moses attempted to resolve the conflict with both Korach and Datan and Aviram, but unfortunately Moses was rebuffed. So I created a source sheet, which I hope everybody has. There are a few on some of the chairs. If you need them, they're just, there you go. Okay. So we're going to focus really just on one or two verses from the Torah portion. This is Moses' interaction with Datan and Aviram, these 2 rebels. So the first source says that Moses sent for Datan and Aviram, but they said, "We shall not go up. It is not enough that you have brought us up from a land flowing with milk and honey to cause us to die in the wilderness, yet you seek to dominate us." Now, a couple of interesting points. First, notice, these 2, nudniks, they called Egypt the land flowing with milk and honey. So I don't know if that was like an intentional dig to Moses or if they really thought of Egypt as the land flowing with milk and honey, but in terms of, as a literary device, it's delicious, as it were. But the attention to the Hebrew text is really important here. The Hebrew verse here, verse 12, it says, "Vaishlach Moshe likro lidatan va'aviram." Moses sent, and he called for Datan and Aviram. Vayomru, the two rebels say, "Lo na'aleh," we will not go up. So what the question is, they wouldn't even go and meet with Moses. So what was so offensive that Moses did that they wouldn't even go and sit down with him for a dialogue? So the second source is a commentary from Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch of Germany. Rabbi Hirsch is considered to be the founder of modern Orthodoxy. So this is his comment. He says, sent for, vaishlach in Hebrew. "In no way does this verse involve a dictatorial order coming from a superior, but rather it is used to designate a friendly invitation." So for Hirsch, Moses wasn't trying to be, obnoxious or sort of domineering with Datan and Aviram. He was just inviting them to dialogue. He was offering a friendly invitation. He just wanted to talk with them to see if there was a way to resolve their dispute, whatever it was. However, Datan and Aviram say, "We will not go up." The language of going up, la'alot, for Hirsch, he says going up is especially used for going to a court of law. So Moses, in the most friendly way, had asked them to come to him, but they took the invitation as a quote-unquote summons and answered, "We are not coming up to my Lord." That is, we do not take orders from him. So he was just reaching out to them, and they took his gesture as like a summons to court, like they were being judged, and they were insulted by that. So there is a breakdown in communication, which caused the dispute to continue. Now, the third source actually comes from another verse, verse 25. The first one was from verses 12 and 13. Now, this is from verse 25 in the same chapter. It says, "And Moses arose and went to Dathan and Abiram." This is from the Talmud. Reish Lakish says, "From here we derive that one may not perpetuate a dispute." So Moses didn't go just once to these two rebels. He approached them twice. When the first time it didn't take, he tried again. I mean, this is part of the greatness of Moses. He didn't give up. Even though these guys yelled at him and were obnoxious, he still tried to make peace with Dathan and Abiram. And this is a comment. This last source, number 4, is from Howard Kaminsky. I just want to give you the whole citation. You can see I had to make it in 11 point, whereas everything else is in 14 point because the citation was so long. Just that I thought was very impressive. So there you go. So source number 4 says, "In other words, even if someone has been unjustly attacked and enmeshed in a conflict, that individual cannot use this fact as an excuse to perpetuate it. And if the individual should ignore an opportunity for reconciliation, he or she will be held guilty for transgressing the prohibition." So the idea is that if you have the chance to make peace, to resolve a conflict, and you actively ignore that opportunity, you are transgressing a negative commandment in the Torah, which the commandment is, it's in the next chapter. It says that we're not supposed to be like Korach, and perpetuate argument. So to me, the bottom line, what I take from this is that Moses, this is part of what made Moses such a great leader. He didn't want conflict. He stood up for what was right, but he also worked very hard towards reconciliation, to try and bring peace to all Israelites, even with people with whom he disagreed, even with people who were obnoxious in this rebellion that was completely unfounded. And if you know the story, you know that God really sticks it to him. I'll just leave it at that. So even though Moses knew that he was right, he still, reached out to them. He still tried to make peace, to bring reconciliation. I wonder if we can apply the lessons of Moses to our lives today. Sometimes it seems like we look out in the world and it seems like there's a lot of fighting and a lot of posturing, people insisting that their way has to be the right way. If we could just channel some of Moses' energy and try to see something from the perspective of the other and try to reconcile, try to make peace, I think that the world would be a calmer place and ultimately a better place. Shabbat Shalom.